Officers in Brazil were chasing a reckless motorcyclist. But let's take a look at some of the other wild moments from today's episode. Get ready to witness how all these chases unfolded. Somewhere in Brazil, during a routine patrol, officers spotted a motorcyclist riding without any protective gear and speeding. When they attempted to initiate a traffic stop, the rider immediately fled the scene. The pursuit escalated to high speeds, with the motorcyclist performing reckless maneuvers and taking dangerous risks. Despite the escalating danger, the rider showed no intention of stopping, refusing to make the situation safer for both himself and the officers, placing their lives at risk in the process.
Vai, caralho! Toca essa porra aí! Toca, caralho! Você vai se fuder, mano! Bora, filhão!
The pursuit reached speeds exceeding 80 miles per hour through narrow streets. At one point, the motorcyclist nearly crashed, and it seemed the chase might end there, but he continued to flee. The officers began strategizing to bring the suspect to a stop, aware that attempting a pit maneuver could result in death or serious injury. But would their plan succeed? Only time would tell.
Fecha ele, Bi! Vai pra cá, entra aqui, ó. Mano, para aí, caralho! Para aí, caralho! Para aí!
The officers continued their pursuit, with one taking a left to block the suspect from swerving that way, while the other positioned himself on the right. In a bold move, they coordinated to push the motorcyclist off his bike, bringing the wild chase to a dramatic and unexpected end.
Deita, deita no chão! Deita no chão! Deita no chão! Deita no chão! Copom, indivíduo na mão. São Teodoro.
After bringing the suspect to the ground, the officers swiftly handcuffed him and later booked him into jail. What do you think about this wild pursuit? Now let's move on to the second extraordinary chase.
Copom, pilote a pé, Copom!
Once again in Brazil, officers spotted a motorcyclist speeding through the streets at night. Without hesitation, they began pursuing him to initiate a traffic stop. But the suspect had other plans. The pursuit escalated to high speeds, with the suspect driving recklessly and putting countless lives at risk. Dangerous decisions were made as he continued to weave through the streets in a frantic attempt to escape. The suspect's driving skills were impressive, as he skillfully maneuvered through traffic, effortlessly widening the gap between himself and the officers pursuing him.
Does that feel right?
The pursuit came to a dramatic end when one of the officers lost control of his bike and crashed. Fortunately, he wasn't injured, but the suspect managed to successfully evade capture. What are your thoughts on this intense chase? Drop them in the comments. If you thought the pursuit had ended, think again. The following day, officers located the suspect and immediately began chasing him once more. But the suspect had no intention of surrendering. He took off again, fleeing without hesitation.
Vira copo. Boa, agora estacionar.
Once again, he sped through traffic and narrow streets at dangerously high speeds. His reckless maneuvers and risky decisions put everyone on the road in serious danger. Sharp turns and high speeds made this pursuit even more intense. The suspect's reckless driving forced the officers to match his every move, with no choice but to follow him through the dangerous twists and turns.
Terra brasileira, Gopô!
The suspect eventually lost control of his bike and crashed. He tried to flee on foot, but an officer quickly apprehended him, placing him in handcuffs before booking him into jail. Now, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below.
Gopô, pilote a pé, Gopô! Gopô, pilote a pé, Gopô!
Officers spotted a speeding motorcycle and activated their sirens and lights to signal the rider to stop. However, instead of pulling over, the motorcyclist took off, fleeing from the scene. The pursuit came to an end when the officers managed to block the suspect from escaping further. They forced him off the bike, swiftly placed him in handcuffs, and later booked him into jail. A trooper observed a speeding motorcyclist and attempted to initiate a traffic stop, but the suspect refused to pull over and immediately fled the scene. The pursuit was wild, with high speeds, sharp turns, and reckless maneuvers. The officer knew he had to come up with a plan to stop the suspect, as the danger to everyone on the road was escalating. The suspect's driving was incredibly skillful, as he expertly evaded the officer, making it increasingly difficult for him to close the gap. The officer struggled to close the gap due to the suspect's skilled driving. However, he knew he had to come up with a strategy to bring the pursuit to an end. How do you think this chase will finish? The pursuit ended when the officers blocked the suspect's path, used a police baton to stop him, and brought him to the ground. They swiftly handcuffed him and later booked him into jail.
Essa moto é sua? Você tá fugindo por quê, seu idiota?
Eu tava sem capacete, tava indo pro salão. Tomando na cara, hein, mano.
Tá perfeito bem abordagem aí, tá ensinando da a rua virada.
Essa moto não é roubada não. Consulta a moto aí.
Posso ficar aí, cara.
Consulta a moto aí.
Da Nacional de Cocaia.